Let's do it.
Everyone put their fake smiles on.
Yeah.
They all do this.
Have some seeds.
Welcome back. Rule 10. Plan and work diligently to maintain the romance in your relationship. Good chapter, guys. I know Seamus enjoyed this one the most out of all of them.
Good chapter.
I love this chapter.
Sean, Buns, you liked it?
I was terrorized the first half, and I liked the second half.
Sean actually sent me a WhatsApp saying, how are you going to do the first half of the book? I'm a bit worried. What a voice. And Keith and Nikki?
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it so much.
No? Nikki?
It put a lot of words to a lot of emotion.
Okay, good. Well, let's start with words. Romance. How do we define it?
Peterson style or Webster?
Have you got both?
No. Peterson says it's being playful.
Okay. How about personal? How do you define romance?
I've never encountered it. I don't know how to define it. And there was, when I was reading the book, I saw some blank parts. Is that what you're talking about?
A lot of blank parts.
You know this is being recorded, Sean.
It's like
Chester?
the robots from Westworld who just don't understand anything beyond their protocol.
Programming, yeah.
You know what was happening in my mind? I was thinking about exactly the same thing, and I thought I wouldn't say that because in case someone actually watches this podcast, which no one does, and you ruin the show for them.
In a way that the one robot is actually a programmer.
You can't do that to people. It's not fair.
Spoiler.
One of the best shows ever.
Thanks for subscribing, by the way.
A reverse spoiler.
Romance, I would define it as the active pursuit of one another.
Ooh.
Very good.
Very nice.
Sean did his homework.
Definition.
Thought
So
about
I'll
this.
give you, Keith is right about Peterson's definition, romance is play. We looked up the dictionary definition because we did a bit of research for this chapter. The dictionary says a feeling of excitement and mystery associated with love.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah. Which I thought was quite interesting because when I read romance and then I read a bit into the chapter, it talks about needing trust and honesty and stuff. And I was thinking it's so easy to be romantic with someone that you've just met. And he's talking about it in a marital sense the whole time. But I was thinking it's so easy because you're not risking anything with someone you don't know. It's very easy to play or to have mystery with someone that you don't know. The hard part is romance with someone that you know well.
Where do we get that from? Because if you asked me what was romance, I would say it was what you're referring to. That romantic being in love stuff, which is not what it is. But that's I think what we've been brought up with.
Isn't it what it is? Peterson says it's play, which indicates some sort of mystery and unknowingness and
And excitement, I think. I
Yeah.
think when Sean and I were first dating, I was so excited to see him. And when I wasn't with him, I was thinking about him. I felt really good. 10 years forward, I get that excitement.
Do you say 10 years forward and you still have excitement?
Yeah, I do. Like maybe things obviously change, but
Go on, Buns.
Yes, Bonds, go on.
I still love you, okay?
I think that's beautiful.
So you're happy to see.
I'm not always excited.
There's that moment when your eyes land on him and then your heart skips a beat and you think, oh, he's there. There's like that safety back again, isn't it?
That is
Yeah.
a real thing, I think. It's not just Hollywood.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm not
okay.
disputing whether it's real or not. I just think from that description, it's easier with someone you don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's literally new and exciting. Literally.
It's literally mystery. You don't know.
Yeah.
And you also, I think there's an idea there with everything he goes on to say, which we'll go into, but there's no responsibility yet. You're not risking losing someone that's important to you. So you can be as out there as you want. Like how we met. We were super flirty and stuff. I didn't care if I made a fool out of myself because I don't know, it's just some girl, you know?
Yeah.
But then once you cultivate a relationship, it becomes harder, I think, to be romantic in that way. And you also know so much about the person.
Yeah, it's easy to think that you know everything and that they're predictable and there's nothing new to know, but that's actually not true. But you have to work at discovering, always rediscovering that person. That's the challenge.
Yeah. So we'll get into the romance side of things at the end, which is where Peterson does. He starts with the heavy lifting, the horrible stuff. And I think a lot of that is summed up in the domestic economy that he talks about. I found this like super insightful. Charlotte and I have been having these conversations for the last 6 months. Yeah, since we moved into this place, we've been having these conversations almost daily, like how to sort out these 200 little battles that make up your life, essentially. So I was interested when I was reading this, thinking about all of you guys and how your domestic economy works, how you've resolved these things. Is it once and for all? Is it a renegotiation all the time? How does this play out in your guys' relationships? You're all married, we're not. So it's interesting seeing down the line a bit. Do you want to take it away, Seamus and Esther?
We were given some brilliant advice by Esther's grandfather, Grandpa Henry, and he said, know your roles and stick to it. And it sounds outdated, it sounds maybe a bit chauvinistic or whatever, but if you break that down, you need to identify what each, Peterson talks about is what is your role? What are you going to be doing? And he mentions the example of making a bed. And we've had exactly the same conversation, and we've fight about it, but in a sense, we're negotiating. Who makes the bed? What are the conditions? How well is it done? And Esther has a much higher value for making beds than I do, clearly. And we had to negotiate. She had to lower her standard a lot, and I had to do something, make the bed. So literally, Jordan Peterson, make your bed is, in our marriage. But I think that the lovely part about this is that Peterson doesn't paint a picture where it's a one and done thing. It's a consistent effort that you put in, and this fairy tale belief that you just fall in love. They're the one for me. They're the perfect one. He breaks it down and says there's no way that that's statistically possible. There is no perfect one, and if they are, they should run away in terror from you because
they wouldn't come near you.
You're chaos. So in the domestic economy, I feel like you have to bring up your best negotiation skills, and that even though we've been married nearly 13 years now, coming up to 13 years, we're still negotiating on these, you say 200 battles, but when you have kids, you have even more battles.
Yeah, it just multiplies.
And I think you get better at it over time.
Yeah, I think at the beginning it can start off as fights. Like, why don't you ever take out the rubbish? And it's not fair. And you have this kind of 50-50 idea. You can. It's got to be fair and all this stuff. And I think as time goes on, at least hopefully, you get better at
fighting.
Giving. Well, also you get better at hopefully being a bit more mature and deciding, okay, this is my job, that's your job, but also being flexible. Could you do this for me? Okay, I'll do it for you, because it's an investment. If I do something for you, they're going to do something for me. It's that reciprocation and that. And if I treat you well, you're going to treat me well. So you start hopefully getting a longer term view on the jobs and the things that you do. You want to have peace, so you get better at negotiation.
Yeah, he talks about that. As long as you're negotiating towards peace, fighting towards peace, the same goal, which I thought was interesting.
It's really good.
How about you, Sean and Buns? Have you guys ironed this out, or is this still a daily argument?
Just a little disclaimer. Bonnie and I have discussed this chapter in the time.
Perfect.
So you will see a live discussion happen.
Negotiate.
Have we assigned roles? Did we ever have a big fight about who's going to do what and why, how, what standard?
We defined that you're the head and that I'm the neck. No, I'm kidding.
No, but in terms of, they're
we
saying that the domestic economy, so
No.
who does what, when, how, to what standard?
Kind of,
How?
but not in terms of you take out the garbage and I do, not like that.
How
Say
do
like
we-
a routine. You guys wake up. Do you have that ironed out? Like, you know what's happening when, who's doing what?
Yes. Right?
Okay.
We do.
We arrived at that because Bonnie is very, very organized. She's incredibly good at following a schedule and doing that thing to a T. She'll do that religiously, very well, time and time again. She is never late for appointments. There has to be something that's gone wrong for her to be late. I am in my natural default state, late for everything. I will never be on time for something. It'll have to be a miracle for me to be on time. The complete opposite. So in terms of like waking up and getting a schedule and getting a routine, that's Bonnie. I've just fallen into line and followed her on the way to do things, to the point where even some things I disagree with or think are wrong, but if I'm not conscious, I'll just fall into the default and go down that road because she's so good. But in terms of division of labor, we just fell into it. It just works because we're so different.
Yeah.
We have different responsibilities. But I will say, live, watching this in real
There
time,
it goes.
when we fought last week or 2 weeks ago about Sammy.
Yeah.
Sammy upset the schedules and upset the priorities and exposed weaknesses in our strategy. And I had to say, this is not working. Because you were trying to do jiu-jitsu twice a week. I was trying to do jiu-jitsu twice a week. And because we were sick the last couple of weeks, we stopped it. And I can't say how much extra room we had in our lives and how much easier it was. And it clicked for me, oh, there's too much pressure on us trying to be children and play games, jiu-jitsu. No one cares about it. It means nothing in the scheme of real life. It's just a hobby. And I realized, oh, we're putting too much effort into this. And so we had to readjust and we had to fight it out and go, well, we can't do this to the same degree as if we not even single, but just married without kids. We don't have that freedom, but we shouldn't try and live like people without kids. That's not fair on Sammy. So we had to readjust.
Yeah.
And you got a little bit uppity with me.
Yeah, I did, because I think I know what my priority is, but I lost sight of a little bit of that. So I just had to come back into alignment, which was very good. And the moment I did, like it just feels right. You just know this is right.
Yeah, back to peace. So you had to decide your hierarchy of responsibility and priority, I guess.
Yeah.
When Sammy was born, we both articulated this, but I was very adamant, but you didn't fight me at all. You agree with me 100%, but I wanted to articulate it. Sammy's the priority. In fact, when we got the positive, sorry, I got a mosquito flying around. When we got the positive test, the P-stick test, I panicked. You guys all know, the family knows. I panicked for 15 minutes. I hyperventilated because it meant I had to readjust my priorities. And it went from two fairly independent married people to a family with a real set of priorities that I knew, that are defaulted in me, that we all agree on. There's no debate on what's the most important thing, and some of the standards that you have to live by for that. And so I knew I'd have to make changes, and I knew the difficulty of some of those changes, but I processed it and I made those changes. So the moment Sammy was born, I was like, Bonnie, Sammy's your priority. I don't care what else happens. I don't care what other people say. I don't care what other people think. That is your priority. That is your number one. And number two is like 100 meters behind that. There is no competition. So, and we were both on board with that, and we assign everything to that template of how we're going to operate. So people say, hey, can you do something? No, Sammy's going to sleep. Sorry. Or someone will say to me, hey, do you want to do this extra thing? And I'll be like, I'm not sure. That's Sammy's so-and-so time, or Bonnie's looking after. I need to go back. It's a no-brainer. It's very easy for us.
I remember Seamus saying that they had to swim in different lanes when they had the boys. That what people were used to them doing and being involved in just had to change because they were swimming in a different lane with children on board. Yeah. Some people understand that, and some people that haven't had children don't, but you still got to swim in that lane.
We lost a lot of friends because that's our same value. We lost a lot of friends. But, if they were real friends, they wouldn't have gone.
Yeah, we weren't as much fun because we couldn't stay up as late.
Maybe not, because I think you have different friends at different stages of life. They can all be real friends, but if they've got different priorities than you, what's the point?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't all go, but the ones that went, you just knew that they weren't really
They wanted
friends.
to keep on
They
partying.
just wanted the party.
You guys were a great party, hey?
We used to be, hey?
So to ask you guys in the twilight of your lives, how is the domestic economy for you guys? Do you live pretty separate patterns and lives, right?
Yes,
In
we
the
do.
same house?
Well, yeah, I mean, we intertwine a lot because we work in the same place. We live in the same house. We have the same children. So we look after the grandkids on a Friday. So we're involved quite a lot together in things we do. But it's interesting about domestic economy because when we first got married, Mum would keep all the money income in envelopes and then dish that out. So she was in charge of finances, which I was rubbish at because I just spent any money I had when we first got married. But then over time, and sometimes I gambled it, and then moving house and having children, then sometimes I would be in charge of the bank card and I would go and pay the bills. And now I guess at the moment I pay some of the bills that are easy for me to pay, and then Mum has internet bills she can pay on the internet, which makes it easy. So it's constant negotiation, which is the easiest, most convenient, most effective way of doing, say, bills. Just one example. Yeah.
Okay. So consistent negotiation. And as far as routine and stuff goes like that, are you pretty routine together?
Yeah, I make the coffee and the tea. Mum does sort of the dusting and I do the vacuuming. If you're talking about cleaning the house, I'll wash the linen,
The way Peterson talks about it is it's all the little things that basically make up most of your life.
That's right.
So all the habitual things, getting up in the morning, making the bed, who makes the coffee, who takes out the trash.
Exactly that.
It's changed over the years, Jay. When we had children and Dad was out working to feed us all, then I picked up the home things and the schooling things, and he did the money making. When you all left home, I went into a full-time job.
Then we shared it.
And I said to Dad, I can't do everything, because I was doing everything at that stage. You remember that. I said, I can't do all of that and work full-time. So he had to get involved. And he was never afraid to do housework or to pick up things. When I was pregnant, he'd help. But just those things change through your life. The
only thing I've done consistently is at night when we go to bed, I make sure the house is locked up. Because Mum does not want to put a hand out a window to grab a handle to pull the window back in, because there will be somebody there to grab her hand when she tries that.
It happened to me, okay? It actually happened.
Her dad grabbed her hand one night and she will never close the window at night again. So I'm more than happy to do that. And I'm quite good at making sure the house is secure.
It's funny, I've done that the whole time as well. And I think it's because of your example. I'm
Yeah.
always one to go around and make sure everything's turned off, the doors are locked. I've done that since I was at university,
Yeah.
even living with other people.
Yeah.
It's funny what you pick up.
I
So-
remember the first night of our, after we came back from our honeymoon, I was in absolute fear in the first night sleeping in bed because I knew I was responsible for
Wow.
I hardly could sleep because I thought if anything happens, I'm the one. So I had to sleep on the right side of the bed near the entrance to the room, just because of your example, Dad.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
Good.
Responsibility.
So when you guys made those transitions with Nikki being full-time mom to going to work and all of those things, I've heard you talk about making curry once, but did you have open negotiation, dialogue? Did you have any tyranny, slavery during those periods? Especially the periods of change is what I'm interested in, because I'm basically resourcing for our benefit. At the moment, it's very easy for us to have these open conversations. We don't have high pressure jobs. We don't have children. And we've still got an exit strategy if we want to leave each other. We're not married. So I'm interested in those like crux moments where you're working full-time, Keith. Are you resentful at all during that, or are you happy to do that? And Nikki, same thing for you being full-time mum.
For my part, I was happy to help. I get a kick out of helping. So I would phone mum on the way home and say, don't bath the kids, I'm going to bath the kids. Not because I was trying to be nice to her, but I was trying to be nice to me because I enjoyed it so much. But I can't think of any sort of deep fights where we would fight over who was going to do what. You probably got a better memory than me. Can't remember any major issues about how we're going to function. Yeah.
Functioning for us and getting the job done, because we're both hardworking, I don't think has ever really been an issue for us.
No.
That's the one area we have not really fought in. And if I have to drop the ball because of something that's come up, Dad's really quick to step into my shoes and sort it, and vice versa.
Yeah. So that works well for us.
We're a good team. We've always functioned really well together. It's all the other areas that are crap.
Well, I'm glad we focused on that area then.
Thanks, Jay.
Hey, great podcast, Jay. Thanks for
It's good to see you guys.
Namaste.
No, it's true. We can be in the middle of a fight and something has to get done, and we drop the fight and we do the function.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know where we even got that from.
Well, the ministry, we were
I
told,
suppose.
if you're ministering, you leave your personal shit at home. I don't think he used that word, that pastor, did he?
I think we also inherited that. I remember going to the hospital for Bonnie giving birth to Sammy. It was Valentine's Day. And in the taxi on the way over, Charlotte and I were together, and I said, listen, sorry about this, but family comes first, so forget about Valentine's Day. And she instantly went, yeah, of course, no worries. And then we briefed on the way over there. We're there basically for Sean. We won't see Bonnie. So we're there to serve and be helpful. It's not about us. So I think we inherited, as the three boys, that same idea of drop whatever ideas you have when the priority structure is set that way. You know?
Yeah.
So thanks for that.
Is it a good thing?
Of course it is.
Yes. Very selfless.
Of course it is. I think family is priority number one. It always has to be. So yeah.
No, I mean to drop issues and things just to do.
In the moment for a temporary amount of time.
Yeah.
We could then have gone home that night and discussed how upset Charlotte was that we weren't doing Valentine's Day stuff, and that's okay. But in the moment, yeah, I think being able to drop those things is a really important, useful thing, right?
Yeah, because you have a priority, and that's a value that you hold on to dearly. It's good that you have something that you value that much that you can drop everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And family is that thing.
I think Shameless and Esther, you also had a dinner that night, didn't you?
I can't even remember. We just knew the baby was coming, so we knew where we were going.
I kept stayed at home with the boys because Esther would have been more help than I would have.
But I think I was going to take the kids, and you guys were going to have a special dinner. You'd bought things, and you were going to prepare. I remember it.
Don't even remember. I think we whinged about it at the time, jokingly, but I don't.
No, we were.
No, you weren't. But I remember I was going to have the boys that night.
Were we more excited about Sammy coming than our own kids?
Maybe.
No, we were
Every time
excited.
babies came, that was like the ultimate. That's the ultimate excitement.
Yeah, Sammy was the mystery. He was the romance. You already knew your kids. So.
Yeah.
We were always, both kids, we had the most amazing days before they were born.
Yeah, but we were super pumped when Sammy was on the way.
Yeah.
Like
It was a
baby
very
coming
special
is
night.
the ultimate adrenaline rush.
Thanks for that honor, Sean.
Yeah, well done.
Anytime.
So let's get on to the more contentious question that I think I've seen in the book. Who is subordinate to whom in a marriage? When I read that, I was like, oh no, JP's gonna be navigating some rough areas, especially in a modern climate. But he went very soft, I thought. His answer was something along the lines of, whoever's the best at the thing should dictate that thing. And the main voice I had in my head during reading that was Sean going, what if you got two competent people that completely disagree on a subject? Where does the responsibility lie? Who makes the final decision? So I want to go to Sean with this because I think you probably have the best answer for it. Who is subordinate to whom in a marriage?
Well, I'll give you my opinion. I'll give you my opinion. But first, I thought he handled it really well because he talked about Christ and the candle, and he talked about it at a wedding ceremony. The very thing that I hate at wedding ceremonies, he talked about the two candles becoming one. yeah, it's just cheesy and horrible. But he gave it meaning, and he showed why it's important. And he started off talking about who has that who's subordinate to who by talking about perhaps it's not the woman to the man or the man to the woman, but they both are subordinate to the idea, and that they're both pushing for this idea, and therefore choose who is responsible for certain things and demarcate that. So I thought that was really interesting. I really liked that idea. I think I agree with it in my actions, because my perspective and our perspective is that I'm the leader, and I've never negotiated on that. I've always said to Bonnie, whenever we've had big fights on issues, I said, this is my ship, I'm the captain, and if you don't like it, you can leave, but this is my ship. I'm not negotiating. And so actually in one of the chapters is negotiation, tyranny, or slavery. Maybe I am the tyrant. And I think if I've made any mistakes in marriage, it's because I would have erred in that era of the category. But my perspective is the husband is the head. He leads. He's designated by God to lead. And I think there's a robust stupidity, bravery in men that there isn't in women. It's different. I think women are better in most ways, but I think there's something about leadership that is uniquely carried by men that is not carried by women. And I think that's an honor to women for a man to lead. And actually most women want a strong leader. They actually respond really well to that. I think that's one of the things that triggers romance is, oh, that dude can do stuff. Yeah. He's not and on the back foot and not sure, and he knows where he's going and he's going to get there. That's a very attractive thing for a woman.
And it's very securing as well. But when you do, I don't need to try and be that role because you're doing it. I can be my role. And I mean, the Bible says how the woman needs to submit to the man. And that was one big, massive revelation for me a few years ago. We went through this crazy time, and I was like, oh, why is Sean doing that? He needs to change in that area, and just berating him. And then I just heard so clearly, it says the woman needs to submit to the man first. It's regardless of what's happening. If the woman just submits, then the man can actually just be the man. And then what comes from that is
Peace.
the thing that the woman actually wants.
Mm.
But if I'm always trying to expect him to be these things that I'm not even submitting to him, then it's impossible to have a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Even the other day, I was feeling angry about something, just confused about something. And I heard clearly again, Bonnie, if you were just in submission in this area to Sean, you would come right in that area. That those frustrations would actually just ease up because you're not having to fight. If your husband's not having that fight, then why am I doing it? If I'm following him, I should be following him and not just in yes sir, no sir, like in action as well. And as I did that, those frustrations, they eased up and actually helped me so much. And it brought a richness to those certain relationships. So I'm grateful that you.
How do you distinguish between that kind of submission and subordination and slavery? I don't see them as the same thing, but how do you guys define the difference between those two?
If you think about a kid, just any old child to a parent, in some ways, there's no difference between that and slavery. They get told what to do, when to do it, what to eat. Sometimes they get told you can't have a cry, or they get their nappy changed on someone else's choice. They don't get to choose what they want to. I don't want to. You can't just run across the road, little Jimmy. And sometimes they're disciplined for that. And so that looks like slavery if you just said that person was an adult. I think the differentiation is what is the purpose behind that setup and for whose good is it? I don't think you've always got a slave's best interests at heart because you're using them for your benefit. That's the definition. You build the road, I benefit from the road. You clean my stuff. Whereas for a kid, any like half-assed parent is trying to do some things for their kid for the kid's benefit. And so I think that's a differentiation.
Yeah.
And I think if I was constantly just being selfish, and I wouldn't say in general I'm a selfish person. I don't think I've done many things in the marriage that have just been for me, right?
No.
But I think if I was selfish and just controlling Bonnie to get something good for me, and it wasn't benefiting us, then I think eventually you would leave. Eventually you'd go, this is not right. You would have a go, you'd fight back. And if I still was tyrannical, you would be like, I'm out.
Yeah.
But that's always been our fight. It's always been what's the benefit. Like whenever Sean's had a go at me, it's always been, well, I want the best for you. It's not actually about you. So
when we first got married, Bonnie was used to once a year or twice a year holidays. And I was like, we're not in holiday stage, we're in work stage. So we didn't take holidays for years. And certainly when we took a holiday, it was 1 week. It wasn't like a month, which was what you were used to.
Yeah.
And so that looks like I'm going, no, Bonnie, you can't have a holiday, but I'm setting up for the future. And I'm trying to get some sort of railway lines in so we can have more freight into our future as opposed to just taking it easy like most people do. I went the other direction and Bonnie didn't understand it all the time. She would often complain when we first married. And I was like, I don't care. I know this is the direction we're going. I know this is the framework we need to get there. I want to be lazy and be on a beach if I choose to. And this is the way we're going to get there. I don't care if you don't like it. And if you just took that as a snapshot, that's tyranny. That's horrible. But
then 2 years ago, we took 8 weeks road trip with an open-ended ticket. We had the longest holiday we could.
Yeah.
So
So I don't know.
I think the proof's in the pudding a bit. He talks about that resentful woman that's cutting her husband's nails in bed and cuts.
That's a terrible story.
I think in line with what you guys are saying, the proof is in the pudding. A resentful outcome would prove that you were being tyrannical, but
Good
a
answer.
peaceful outcome and gratefulness, gratitude, I think that shows it probably wasn't tyranny. Charlotte and I actually had the opposite problem. When we were first setting up our relationship, she basically asked to be enslaved. She said, "You decide everything." And we had huge fights in the opposite direction, which was, you need to step up, you need to start thinking, you need to make decisions. I might go crazy one day. I need someone level-headed that is as competent as I am to set me straight again, to put us back on the path we were going towards. So I don't think Charlotte's ever had the same issue as Bonds, like, oh, I don't know how to do that. It's like the opposite style. And I'm so wary of being tyrannical and enslaving her that from day one, that's what I've been fighting for, is basically to get her to man up a bit. So it's interesting to see how you guys negotiate that. How about you, Shay and S? Did you have this conversation before you were married, is also what I'm interested in. Or did you set this up as you were going along?
For the submission conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yes.
had pre-marriage counseling by Esther's folks, and they went through a checklist, and we ticked all the boxes.
It's easy to tick a box.
We knew all the, we'll do this, we'll do this. How many kids are you going to have? Blah, blah, blah. And for our first 5 years without kids in our marriage, things were pretty easy. It was when kids arrived that we started, the rubber hit the road. And I think one thing that we have had is we've always negotiated for that peace. And I think one of the things about the tyrannical and the slave is that it doesn't serve either one.
Yeah.
The tyrannical leader doesn't like themselves turning into a tyrant. They don't. And the slave doesn't usually live up to their full potential, which is another form of angst. And that's one thing I think as we've developed, as I never wanted Esther to be the slave and then just do exactly what I tell her to do. Actually, I wanted a bit of kickback. I wanted a bit of negotiation, because I very much am aware that I'm not clear on things. I'm very open to being wrong, but there is the sense that I am the head of the house. Yeah. And if it comes down to, is it A or B, and we're both 50-50, I'm going to make that call. Yeah. And she's going to have to trust me that I'm going to make the call that's best for the family. And that was never a good negotiation.
But I had to learn to trust you, because there were many times that I would kick back and be like, stuff you, essentially. Why do you get to say this? Because I'd never grown up in a household with a leader. So I was very used to, my dad never laid down the law or said, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going. It was always probably too much negotiation. And so when he would put his foot down, I would naturally react to that, because I'd be like, who are you to say what we're doing? And I wouldn't trust it. It would create this big, I think you're being selfish, or there's something about that, your motives aren't right. But as time has gone on, and he's been very strong on this point when it comes to certain things, I've just seen again and again, he's not selfish and he makes the right decision. So it's also just been a process of learning to trust. And as I learn to trust and don't see that as abuse, then it becomes easier and easier and easier.
And another point that I would like to pick out from Jordan Peterson's book is he talks about being vulnerable. And that's one thing I've suffered with, because when you have to negotiate, you have to actually put into words what you want. And when you do that, it's like I felt weak having to say, listen, I want this. Because then they have a weapon over you, because now they know what you want, they can withhold it from you.
Or I need this.
Yeah. And so he talks about how cynicism can seep into a marriage, and how the opposite to cynicism is actually being truthful. And it actually is courageous to be open and honest. And that's one thing that we've had to fight for, is speak the truth, say what we want, and negotiate towards that. And we had a few breakthroughs in different areas, but essentially we fall back on the principle that Esther submits to me and I submit to God, just like Christ died for the church.
And I can trust that.
And sometimes it's not clear, it's not easy, it's not, nice. But when when it happens and we work through it, there's more trust. And it's courageous to have trust. You're not naive anymore.
Yeah.
You're not like, oh, it's going to be perfect. You know that someone can hurt you.
Yeah.
But you're willing to be vulnerable with them because that's what courage, you need courage in marriage.
You also need that time span so that you have a track record together, so that you can look back and go, look, have I failed you yet? No. Does this work? Yes, it does. And you can't build that without something solid and long term. I don't know how else you can come to that conclusion. So yeah, that trust has to be built.
Do you trust yourselves more?
Yes. With more practice, you mean?
Do I trust myself personally more than I trust Esther?
Yeah.
No, over the time that you've been married and through iteration and, like Esther saying, a track record, do you trust yourself more over time?
Like
than
our
you used
ability to make choices.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
100%. We were totally naive when we first were married.
Yeah.
I reckon for the first 5 years.
At least.
And it's just such an interesting thing when it's almost like you get over a hurdle and you realize I'm reacting or I'm responding in such an immature way. And I look back and there's so many arguments and fights that we kept repeating, kept going over. And then you look back and you go, how stupidly immature were we that we had fights? That we laugh about some of the fights that we used to have because we weren't able to actually be vulnerable with each other and face it down. But now, you can tackle the bigger stuff, I guess. Yeah,
because in the beginning, the fight's about that thing. It's not about the goal or the priority. It's like, oh, I feel so offended about this small thing that you've. Whereas now, with time, you're much more better at looking at what's our aim, what's our goal, where are we headed, and of course, you trust each other more. And yeah, you become a better team, and you trust yourself more because you've had a track record.
We would go through a routine, and we would go. There's an issue, but then the issue has so many. Oh, but you feel, and then there's just fires off, especially with a woman's brain, just fires with all these different directions.
Crazy cycle.
And it would take us probably between an hour and 5 hours to try and get to the source and the root of that issue.
Man.
Now we can deal with that within 5
it's much faster.
minutes to half an hour, depending on the issue. and we're getting better at it. And that's why I think like even the dating thing, you don't have skill at romance, you don't have skill at dating, and you don't have skill at negotiation. So you've got to understand, if I've got 60 years of this, get better at negotiation.
You have to make this work.
Embrace the thing and it takes time.
Which leads us to the romance side of things. Peterson suggests 4 hours a week for romance. So I was interested to get all of your perspectives on, do you get close to that? Are you way exceeding that? 4 hours. Sean and Buns?
It's terrible that they like to ask this question.
They're not in a very good phase of romance.
Not many people answer the question. No, you answer the question.
Answer honestly.
No, you answer it. Come on, you're on the spot.
I am a weird person, and I'm happy being weird, and I don't follow the crowd, and it's not out of rebellion. I'm not one of those people. He doesn't do it because I'm not that person. I just don't care for what most people care for. And so I don't want a 9 to 5. I don't want traditional. I don't rely on the things that other people will listen to. I don't listen to gossip. I don't listen to the fake news. I don't listen to the weird Facebook messages that go around, the email chains. I don't believe any of that stuff. I like to think I'm not.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's a big
Here's the thing, because I thought you were going to say this.
What?
I also am not a date night person. I've never been a date night person. Never.
Never.
My question wasn't date night though.
Yeah.
My question was romance.
Romance.
Yes, well, this is the thing. So when I think of romance, I think of the date night and the flowers and all that. Yeah. And we don't do that. And I've purposely made sure we don't do that. It's not even like I don't do it, like I forget. Like I take a stand against it in our lives. you do you, whatever you want. But I don't want to do that in our lives. But in terms of play, I would say we have much more than 4 hours a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Define play.
We get the ball. We throw it.
Kick it.
Loose definition, nothing too specific.
Can I ask a question?
Is that your question?
Bonnie, do you require romance?
Yes.
So
But-
surely there should be some negotiation in
Surely.
this, because you don't do it, Sean, but Bonnie requires it.
Well, Sean does it. I've been very traditional in my thinking. I've assigned it to the dates and the flowers and all of that. But then I've had to realize that I had to look at what Sean does do and realize that's his way of showing it. So he might not come home with the flower, but there's been many times that he's come home with some chocolate, and my favorite chocolate. And I know that sounds so little, but I'm like, no, but there was thought that went into that.
Or I'll come home with 8 different chocolates.
Exactly, yeah. So I've had to look at what he does and not expect what the rest of the world may want. And when I've changed my thinking on that, then it's helped me a lot. And I've been able to see what you do.
But that is romantic. It's thoughtful.
Yeah,
I just think of their 10th anniversary, what he did for Bonnie
Yeah.
that night.
It's fantastic.
That was seriously romantic.
Romantical, yeah.
I can't even know anyone the word is.
And I hated that. I felt like it was a prison. I hated it, but I did it because Bonnie enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's not my thing at all.
And you didn't make it known during the
No, I
time as
didn't-
well.
I didn't
Thank you.
Drag my feet or my attitude. But also we'll play. We'll do different things, and we'll do different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like more spontaneous stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll be driving home, and then Sean will say, "Let's go do this," and I love that. I like the spontaneous. So I mean, when we were dating, we would get on boats and go pedaling around the islands and call McDonald's. You can't deliver to the island, but you'd think that's so funny. So I mean,
But also, I will spend a lot of time dreaming about businesses or ideas or this strategy or that thing, and I will share that with Bonnie. I'll bring Bonnie on the journey and go, "Hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think about?" And we'll dream and we'll play and we'll Google, and Bonnie will do something that brings and contributes. And I'll be, "Oh, that's good," or "No, we should think about that." So it's more than just
staring into each other's eyes.
yeah. For me, maybe I'm wrong on that, but it's doing life together in a fun, interactive way. When I'm thinking of work, I think bring Bonnie with me. I don't think I have my work life and you have your nothing life. I want to do it together. That's what I've built for.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Jordan Peterson saying 4 hours a week. I think we would struggle to only do 4 hours. I
Yeah,
think we do much more.
it's not enough.
Yeah, I think it's important. It's important to distinguish between romance and dating in the classical sense. I completely agree that romance and dating are not the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one form of romance that some people love and some people need. I think the type of people that need that are the type of people that work 2 separate jobs, have kids, and they need to allocate time away from that.
Yeah.
Whereas you guys have made your own jobs and kids, and you're integrating it all together because you can.
Yeah,
It's a very different setup. But in terms of dating, Nikki and Keith, I was interested to ask you, do you remember the last date you went on?
Yeah.
When?
No.
Where? How? Why?
We went to Central to have coffee and to go and look at Delights or whatever it was.
Yeah. Or was it the time you took me to this beautiful restaurant on the island somewhere? You're going to love it. And I ordered a burger. And I was eating the burger. This really tastes strange. And it was a vegan restaurant. And it wasn't meat. It was some beetroot something or other. It was lovely.
So let me finish the story about the date we had with the coffee. Your father got up and left, and I just was left in town on my own because he got miffed.
Did I?
That's playful.
That's
Mm.
fun. That's a mystery.
Mysterious.
You can see where we go with the dating thing.
Where's Keith?
When is that?
It's a mystery.
Tell me that.
I don't remember being there. That thing.
But you used to date when you were kids, right?
No, Dad was very much like Sean. We used to go, in our day we called it clubbing, but it was to discos. And we would meet at the disco with all our friends and we'd dance. And yeah, it was great fun. We could always go out in a big crowd. And then as soon as we connected with each other, we went to Keith's house.
Couldn't talk at a disco. It was too loud. We talked a lot.
And we would sit with his folks and drink coffee and eat dinner and
Listen to music. And
shoot frogs. And Dad didn't do the dating thing.
But you did the play thing. That was fun.
Yeah, we did a lot of play,
A
yeah.
lot of sweet memories, actually.
Yeah.
On that, yeah. Yeah. So, Sean, you very like your dad.
Chester,
yeah.
you
so-
guys go in for the
I was-
original style dating a bit more, right?
More, but I was just saying to him tonight, like Sean and Bonnie said, the fact that we now do life together, we don't have separate jobs. We're together every day and we're really enjoying it. That is very like bonding and very fulfilling. And then it makes connecting very easy because we don't feel distant or like you don't spend enough time with me or like, because we're not only working together, we're doing a good job and we're doing our best and we're seeing the results side by side. And that's really, really gratifying. That's more gratifying than any date. But because of that, and even I said to him, like, I actually haven't really felt the need for constant dates recently because we're together so much. But that said, now every now and again, I'll be like, you should take me on a date. And it's kind of like half a joke, but half serious. And he goes, okay, what night? Like Seamus is very good at just like, sure, let's go on a date. And it's not, neither of us are like high maintenance. We're not like, now you do this and we're going to go here and we go at this time. And it's really like casual. And we're like, where should we go? Because we can go anywhere and be happy. We can go to any restaurant and have a good time. So for us, dates they're fun and we do them every now and again. And it's just fun. We just enjoy each other's company. We're good at enjoying each other. And it's not a big stressful thing.
I will say this. I think romance is important.
Yes.
And one thing that we do with our kids is we'll
This is
turn the
fun.
lights down and we'll get the wine out. And Ike will have a little bit of wine and a lot of water. We'll dress up smart. Esther will get in a dress. We'll put on some French music. We will come up with names for ourselves. So I'll be Dr. Zhivago
It was funny.
and Julie will be something from Super Smash Bros. And Esther will be Madame somebody. And we call it date night. And I really want our kids to
Have a
value
concept.
dates. And it's not because it's, you have to, but I want them to know that they always want to give Esther a ring. And I want to know that they need to pursue the woman that they love. They've got to make an active effort to reserve time and to do that. And I want them to grow up dating so that they make the other person feel special. And that's a form of sacrifice. I felt awkward the first few dates I ever had because I didn't know the skills or whatever. I think Jordan Peterson talks about the awkward, the unbearable date. But I think you can get better at it. And I think you can actually get to a point where you enjoy it. But is it dating that is the thing? No, it's just more the
Connecting.
pursuing of each other. So we just do it as a fun thing. And the boys will say, can we do date night? And then we do the same thing. And it's also the inherent thing for young boys that they got to know they've got to be on best behavior at a dinner table, and they've got to speak well, and they've got to, because it'll set them up for being able to communicate with a girl because they don't have any sisters. They don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
So I want them to, they always say, I'm going to marry mom. And I want them to have that as a background to when they do start dating.
But like we were talking about negotiation and now we're talking about romance. You have to negotiate romance as well. we have literally had the conversation. I need this many times a week. What are we? No, especially when you first have a baby. I was just saying to Seamus tonight, when we had Judah, that was one of the worst years of our life. Like I think Sean and Bonnie have had a really good time.
Besides Judah.
We had such a stressful time intimately because I was so stressed out and I wasn't interested. And Seamus literally had to say, like, I need this many times. And I had to go, okay, I'm just going to like suffer through it and do it. So we've had all those conversations, but he's very right. You literally have to have those conversations, especially when life gets more stressful or more full, or it becomes very unspontaneous. But that being said, now that our kids are a little bit older, it gets more fun again and it gets more spontaneous, but we've had to practice that and we've had to negotiate that and we've had to do our duty at times and just do it consistently. And it kind of comes ebbs and, it's ebbs and, what do you say?
Ebbs and flows.
Whatever it is. Yeah. There's going to be the hard times and there's going to be the easy times, but you have to just try and be consistent and you have to be honest with each other, especially when it's embarrassing or vulnerable.
Horrible.
We had a really rough year that year. It was awful. So if we weren't very good that year, that's why.
I would think that Esther hated me.
I thought you hated me.
And
so.
I did hate her.
Yeah.
You want to click her nail?
The immaturity is that you're sitting on either ends thinking, oh, they hate me.
They hate me.
And you're acting at like the word becomes flesh is what he says. And you really need to get less immature and actually start to be vulnerable and speak about these things.
That was a horrible year.
Horrible.
Anyways, and
Terrible.
I'm sure we're going to have bigger challenges in some regards at some points, but yeah, you have to just.
Sorry, we're talking too much. All right, stop.
No, that was good. I think the alternative to you negotiating it was a lot less romantic than what you guys ended up with.
Yeah.
So that's hopeful.
Your background is like the romance of your youth, and Jordan Peterson literally talks about it. Oh, what is this? So boring. There's no spontaneity. Where's the play?
Schedule.
And he's like, well, you have to start somewhere.
Mm.
And if you don't schedule it in the hard times, it's not going to you're just going to be bitter and resentful in the easy times. You're not just going to suddenly want to like jump into bed together. Yay! Because you haven't built anything. You're going to hate each other. So it's like, it's so necessary to be consistent and to think of what the other person needs as opposed to what you always feel like or want. So,
okay, that's too personal.
Anyways, we're done.
No, that's good. I like that. Has anyone got anything else they want to add to this, or are you happy with what's been said?
One other thing I thought was interesting, I've never thought about this, but the idea of Adam, he talks about Adam being a hermaphrodite. It's such an interesting concept because I usually think of Adam as male and Eve as female, but actually before Eve was created, Adam was both. And then he talks about how we as a male or female are feeling that we're missing something and that we need to complete ourselves. And I think that's such an interesting thing because the union of marriage, or it's almost like you need each other to be complete.
To form one complete stable person.
Two crappy people making one half decent person.
Yeah, I think it's he talks about how two alcoholics lean towards, wine. You want to meet somebody who balances you out, preferably.
Has your opposite weaknesses.
And I think often opposites attract. That's why it works so well. But it's such an interesting concept coming from Adam because I've never seen it that way.
What did you think about second Adam, talking about Jesus being the complete ideal with both masculine and feminine traits?
Yeah, I think, that's
it's
very scripturally based. It's almost like Jordan Peterson is preaching rather than a psychologist. It's like he's
reading the Bible
preacher.
More than he lets on.
Yeah.
You're like,
he didn't bring in anything else besides Christianity in this chapter. And I thought it was also interesting that his backdrop, he was very merciless, Jaden, about just living together. And I wanted to know what you thought about that, because it was like he didn't hold any punches. What?
Yeah, I was hoping we talked about it earlier. I was hoping someone brought it up because
I was thinking about you didn't.
we've been reading it and we haven't discussed what our point of view was on that since we decided to move in together. So what's the question? Well, what do I think about his points of view?
Yeah, your response to what he said.
His perspective on living together.
To be honest, I get it in a sense. The one thing I like that he says is, what do you really think of the other person if you're just going to live together? It's almost like a trial and you're ready to get rid of them at a moment's notice, right? You're holding your right to get out of it. I think that's the best thing he says. To be honest, the rest of it, I kind of disagree with. I've found this move in together has been great. It's been a really good trial. I see things very systematically like this, then a dog, then a marriage, then a baby. And each one of those are little steps towards bigger responsibilities that I would not want to jump headfirst into.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because he goes through the stats, right? And he talks about how, even though you get married afterwards, but do you agree with his evaluation that you need marriage in order to take away the exit point? Or do you feel that you can commit to someone and that you don't have the exit strategy? Because it's almost like sometimes, especially in our marriage, there's times where I've wanted to walk away.
Yeah.
But because of that vow and because of that public gathering and that it's made me, stick at it.
Yeah.
Do you feel like
you have an exit
living
option
together is that strong that you don't have an exit strategy, or do you think it is just trial and error, take it step by step?
No, yeah. I do have an exit strategy and I'm glad about it. I want an exit strategy for now. If I didn't want that exit strategy, I'd get married just like how you say and make it much more difficult. And I think the main blockage to that exit strategy would be having a kid together. I see that as more final than having a marriage. Because now, like everyone has said, your priorities have shifted and you're not actually important anymore. The kid is more important than anything, right? So that's what I see as that. Like, you would have found it easier to walk away from your marriage than when you didn't have kids than now, right?
100%.
Yeah. So I don't know because I haven't had kids, but logically that makes sense to me. Like if I decide to have a child, I'm basically dying to myself. That's how I see it. Like I'm not important anymore. Whereas a marriage, I kind of see it as a halfway step towards that. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think living in is because I just want to grow up quicker, like be more like a person.
So you get away from your family. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's a clear answer. I'm not sure if we're clear on it either. I didn't feel judged by what he said. I think it made sense. He had the statistics to back it up. But it also didn't make me feel like, oh no, we should get married and stop living together. I kind of, even though he's saying it, I kind of feel what we're doing is the right way to do it. For us.
I think at this stage we're negotiating. Yeah. So it's negotiation first, and then we can have our priority set up and domestic economy kind of have that plan out already, and then going into marriage, and then you come up with extra 200 things that you gotta take care of. So now I've got a partially taken care of, and then things come along, and then we're a stronger team already. It should be easier. And life is really difficult anyway.
I'd also add that I would only get married if it was to have a child. I would never just get married to be married. That's my view on it. I think it's insane that most people do it. I think you guys are all absolutely crazy for getting married. To take away your exit strategy is just crazy to me.
But he does say it's a slap in the face if you
To trial
if you
someone.
try somebody out and you have that extra strategy. It's and I love how he words it. He says that you need to engage in negotiation, and you need to have that stability that is going to last. And actually, that's the bedrock of having kids. It's not the kids that make the marriage.
Yes.
It's the marriage that makes the kids.
It's the promise that, yeah.
And you need to, like he talks about in terms of years, how many opportunities are you going to have at trying something out? Maybe 3, 4 times if you're lucky. So he says that there's an intrinsic need, especially in females, to want to have kids at any cost. And I've met dozens of women who've done IVF and done anything at an old age. And so it's like you want to not mess around with your fertility. You don't want to waste time, and you will need to get stuck in. And I think it's for Esther and I, it's been phenomenal that we were so naive and young, because it's given us time to build something so that when the boys come along, we've worked on things. We were not there, but we've had the time to do it.
But our path to marriage and our basis for marriage are very different than Jaden and Charlotte. Like it's not a direct comparison, but it's interesting to hear your view on what living together means. Because it was like we would have never lived together because there were already, like even sex was a no-go until you get married, because that's like a covenant, that's a promise. So it's a very different.
Esther has a younger brother, Ben, and he started dating a girl called Lindsay when we first got engaged. And the reaction was, no, this is wrong. They've been together this whole time, and they've had a form of commitment. And I've always struggled to go, here's my ideals, or here's what you should do. But at the same time, there's long-term commitment that I cannot ignore. So it's just interesting. I think in the modern culture, especially millennial culture, it's let's try. And it's a lot less committed than I would say you and Charlotte are, Jaden. So it's an interesting way that he sets it up.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't hidden this stuff from each other either. We've almost from the beginning, we've talked very openly about this. So I think we know each other's opinions quite well. Charlotte's changing because she's younger and she's still developing her points of view on things. I've got quite a direct point of view. And I've said to Charlotte, if this doesn't work, I'm basically done with long-term relationships. So that would be quite sad, because I'd be done with it. Like he says, how many more of these do you really have? And I've kind of come to the realization that rather than keep trying after this one, I would just cut it dead and, go do charity or something. Be helpful, but not have that for myself anymore. Because I do think there's a cutoff point. There's 50-year-olds going out and dating and going to parties and stuff. And I could name names of people that you see and they're not going to change. They're not going to adapt. They're not going to live for someone else. And it's just sad. So I'd rather just go work for a charity or something. I'm getting too old for this stuff anyway. Hopefully Charlotte works out, but we'll see.
Are you just trusting that you'll know if the time and when the time is right for the next step?
No, it's like I said, it's a very practical, pragmatic thing. It will be, we solve the issues that we have today, then there's a dog, and then there's a marriage, and then there's a baby. But if at any of those points we cannot get on the same page, I'm not going to live my life in chaos. So we'll just end it at that stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I've always really admired your relationship with Charlotte, because I think you guys have dealt with so much stuff that most people dating don't even deal with.
Go there.
And marriages,
Yep.
like most people just want to have fun and be stupid. You guys have, I don't know if you've just seen all the crap that everyone else has gone through. You've dived in, and I think you're further along than some marriages. I've
Most.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're both the youngest, so we've watched other people's marriages and observed them. And we started on truth. Like that was our main thing from the beginning. We both said to each other, we're not going to lie to each other. So it's much easier to get into the nitty gritty straight away when that's your bedrock, is honesty.
Brilliant.
Yeah. The romance.
I love you both together, just so you know.
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, on that note, GG. We'll be back next week for Rule 11. All right, thanks.
Bye.
Time for romance.
4 hours. Get the timer started.
4 times, Shay.